Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regularly scheduled mayor and council meeting for the town of Berlin. It is Monday, May 8th, 2023. Please join us in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get into agenda item number 1 of the meeting packet, I do want to introduce a new face for the mayor's office. We have Miss Sarah Gorfinkel. She's the new executive administrative assistant for the mayor's office, taking over from Miss Joanne Unger's retirement that happened back in October. So it's very nice to have that position filled, and we're happy to have Sarah on board. Do you want to say a few words?
Sure, thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I've had the great opportunity to volunteer in the Welcome Center for the last 8 months and to work with Ivy and to Allison, and I'm really looking forward to transitioning to a full-time position, and I'm excited to be able to manage my work-life balance. My girls are both at Worcester Prep down the street, so it makes for easy commuting, and we just love Berlin. We moved here about 3 years ago, and I'm really excited to be able to give back to the town that we love so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
All right, so the first item on our agenda is the consent agenda and the approval of the minutes. From the, go ahead.
Motion to approve.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Orr, a second by Councilmember Nichols. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that the consent agenda passes unanimously with all council members present. Up next is agenda item number 2, which is the first reading of ordinance 2023-03 FY24 budget adoption. And I'll run point on that. The one thing I want to note for the public and everybody watching is that there will be a public hearing on the budget scheduled for Monday, June 12th, 2023. So that's our first meeting in June. All right, let's get over to Town Attorney Gaskell. Should I read the ordinance?
Yes, but you can leave out the,
The blanks?
yeah.
Thank you. Ordinance 2023-03, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the Town of Berlin approving the FY 2024 budget as submitted. The ordinance was introduced. That's the portion I can leave out?
Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. So I've asked our finance director, Ms. Natalie Saleh, to give us an overview of the revenues and expenditures, and then I'll touch on a few items that have adjusted a little bit.
Today in the packet you have a draft stamped with the date of May 4th for today's discussion as an introduction budget. With general fund total balance of $11,491,464. Out of that amount, we have $1,854,000 is from prior years in combination, whether it's a reserve or our work carry forward or advancement from impact fees. General fund have capital projects in the amount of $3,805,000, but that amount will be reduced after the meeting because we received a notification with some grants not being available in fiscal 24. So it will carry itself to the capital project and that amount will be reduced. Electric fund, $8,013,230. $600,000 is advancement from reserve for the capital projects, and there is a potential $750,000 bond as a loan. Proceeds will be placed to proceed with the AMI project, but we have not started that process. We have not discussed anything, so it's just the budgetary amount. Electric have $1,765,000 in capital projects scheduled for fiscal 24, 750 of each for AMI metering. Water fund, $2,526,370. $1,255,000 is prior year combination again of reserve or ARPA grant carried forward. Water have $1,375,000 scheduled for capital projects, budgeted for capital projects. Sewer fund, $5,378,000. $1,765,000 is prior year advancement combination of ARPA carried forward for fiscal '24. Sewer have $2,160,000 budgeted for capital projects. Stormwater fund is $1,226,850, and there's a $383,000 from prior year advancement, and that amount is largely due to the scheduled projects and our placement of the grant for stormwater improvement. Stormwater have almost $1,975,000 scheduled for stormwater improvement for fiscal '24. That's a short summary.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate it. So I do want to draw attention to page 3 of the revenue side, and it correlates also with the expenditure side of things, but I just want to note that the grant that we've received notification of, and the council should have a copy of this as well, we did receive notification from the Maryland Department of Natural Resources that our grant application for the playground equipment was unsuccessful. So that will result in a change in the town's portion of that allocation, and we'll make that adjustment and send a revised copy out to everyone for the,
What was our portion?
I believe 55,000.
Yes.
So there is a change there regarding that. I've asked the finance director to add, since we were hoping with the climber reduction to hopefully offset that by a successful grant application, I've asked to re-add that climber back. I think it'll come to, what, 25,000 for the climber? Just to make the necessary repairs that the Public Works folks have asked.
Which we originally had to give up.
We did.
Okay.
So it's designed to hopefully make the improvements to get our playground to where it needs to be, since the grant application is unsuccessful. The other assumption that is being made with this budget is that we are still assuming that we will receive the request that we've made from the county for $122,000 from the roundabout funding to be, from Flower Street, to be placed in a one-time payment for fire and EMS support. I understand that the commissioners are hopefully going to decide on that soon, but we are making that assumption that it is going to be covered. If any of you, I know I've said this to some of you as well, but feel free to reach out to our commissioners and express the need that we have for that funding. Additionally, I wanted to note that you'll see salaries have changed across all departments and all funds. This is using the PayPoint HR draft report and a market rate of 35% of market rate for all staff and all positions. It also includes a 2.25% or 2.25% cost of living adjustment for all staff as well. With that being said, I would like to ask the council if we can provide some direction to PayPoint HR about what we would like to see as a final market rate for us within the report, so that we can get a final draft of the report that's able to be shared. And then if we receive that deliverable in time, I would like to schedule a work session for us at our next meeting to go over the PayPoint HR study publicly. I think all of us have discussed wanting to hit 50% of market rate, but we've also discussed that that may not be feasible this year, which I think we're all on the same page with that. So I think that asking PayPoint HR to keep that as a goal of the town to achieve 50% of market rate is a good thing, but to ask them to use for their calculations 35% of market rate currently, so we can get a final report. So that's the budget introduction and my request.
So I'll say this about the pay study. In past years, at least since I've been on the council, it seems like we've just been throwing darts at the wall when it comes to trying to determine how much we should increase employees' pay. And it's just not a good way to do things. So this is the first time we've actually done a pay study like this, and we have a solid path going forward to bring the employees up to where they need to be. 35%, although may not be perfect this year, it is a start, and we can get people on track. And we do have to start somewhere, but we do have budget constraints. And so we're trying to balance that out. So I think the 35%, although, like I said, isn't perfect, is where we need to be to start the process and then slowly move it forward from year to year. And that way also the employees will have a solid understanding of their financial path forward. So, good program.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And I'm only talking about general fund. Total salaries for general fund is what? And of that, how much should I plan on for fringe benefits? Is there a percentage?
I can give you the total current salaries. You said just for general fund?
Just general fund.
Okay, current is $2,684,113. Considerations when looking at that, FICA is at 7.65%. Maryland State Retirement for regular employees is about 11%, and LEOPS is about 37%. So that would be for your sworn officers. So those are percentages that you would have to factor in as well. And actually, when we met and input some of these numbers, Natalie brought up another point, something I didn't really think about is as we increase salaries, you do have to increase some of your overtime because it's also going to increase if salaries increase. So those are some things to consider. Unfortunately, I can't give you a rounded percent because the police department has such a different state retirement level, so it's hard to give a generalized percentage.
So you can't give me a percentage based on the 2.6 million?
It's an additional 7.65% for FICA, an additional 11% for most employees for state retirement, and then 37% for any sworn officers. So no, I do not have a general percent to give you.
7.6, 11.
And then 37 for sworn.
And if Vice President Burrell wanted to do like a round figure, he could take the total salaries, even though it's not going to be 100% correct, he could take total salaries of the police department and multiply that by the LEOPS multiple. But
Yeah.
understand that that includes some that are unsworn, and they would be at the different percentage, but it would make your number higher, not undershoot it. So.
In your report on page 16, you have a breakdown taken, since we talked about police, because they're a combination of the office and retirement. So if you glance out here, it would give you a good understanding of salaries full-time, consists of all the sworn police officers and full-time employees. And then you also have part-time and temporal, and you have overtime amount. So those three numbers added together would be part of the FICA calculation, which is 7.65%. And then below that, where you see it says retirement, 366,000, I'm rounding to the next thousand, belong to LEOPS. And then 21,240 is a state retirement for the employees who do not participate in LEOPS.
So if we do, if the council decides 35% and the 2.25% COLA, looking to next year, next fiscal year, doesn't that would automatically bump everyone up already 2.25%. So let's just say staff person's salary right now is X, and we're going to bump them up, not 35%, but to make them 30% of market.
Right.
So that goes up, and the 2.25, so then they tick up. So the study that we have now has staff X's salary at this. When we get into the steps and the grades, which will most likely be next fiscal year, doesn't that already put them up? And we have to base any increases on what they've increased this year.
Well, we
Does that make
haven't
sense?
established the step and grade yet, so we would plug in current numbers into the step and grade.
So current as of.
And when I
end of
say current, yes,
FY24.
as of the point that we actually do that, so that would be after the start of the fiscal year, after these salaries go into effect.
Okay.
So they would not be based on FY '23 salary dollars, they would be based on FY '24.
Okay. And Kelsey, can you please, the PayPoint people, they recommend increments in tens, correct? Like 40, like 30, 40, 50, is that
No,
correct?
they, in their report, they broke it down, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. They did increments of fives in their report.
Did they have any concerns with COLAs?
He just said that, getting closer to that 50% of the market would be better. So if that meant not doing COLAs in order to get us there, then that was something he said he would recommend, but yeah.
The other alternative that was proposed
Right.
was, and the suggestion, to be perfectly clear, from PayPoint HR, is 40, if we can achieve 50%, to achieve a percentage in lieu of the COLA. So their recommendation would actually be to go to 40 and knock down some of the COLA. But we felt that the 35% of market would help get us closer to correction, and then also getting everybody to an equitable line, and then the 2.25% COLA would assist staff that may not be impacted by that 35%. So we felt that it was a little bit more holistic.
But is everybody impacted with 40%?
No.
No.
No, okay.
No.
So at 40%, if that were even on the table, we would still be thinking of a COLA anyway.
Well, at 40%, you couldn't afford a COLA, really. Or it would be such a nominal COLA that we felt 35 and 2.25 was a better approach.
And so to add to the conversation, we sounded across, and I think I said it in the meeting, it is not 35% increase for the employees.
Right, yeah.
35%
Yeah.
percentile of a bracket, so it's not every single person touched by 35%.
Right.
We have unchanged amounts in so many departments, or within the departments, so many people are not unchanged, and all they will receive as presented in this draft is 2.25% of cost of living.
So then the other, I don't want to say obvious question, but my other question is then the 35% market, 2.25% COLA, that is within the originally proposed 200,000 contingency, yes?
That's correct. So the other thing that you'll notice in the budget is that the contingency has been shrunken down to, let's see, where is
Like
it?
2,000?
Yeah, I think it's rather
2,000.
nominal
Low.
now.
Yeah.
But that funding has been dispersed across the other departments within the general fund to account for the 35% of market rate and the 2.25% COLA.
Where do you see this?
So the contingency is under administration.
Got it.
I don't have the page number.
That's fine, I'll find it.
If somebody has it, call
My
it
glasses
out.
are dirty, I
10,
can't see.
page 10.
Page 10, thank you, Councilman.
$2,200. Well, I would, speaking for myself, I hope that we can, I have a feeling that we are, but I hope that we can get guidance to the PayPoint people. Because I think that we need to get, I don't want to say, we need to get situated for staff and for the public so we can get this study out there. Taxpayer dollars.
Right, and I mean, we want to get a deliverable in time that hopefully we can discuss that as a group at our next meeting. And I think that if we can agree, the understanding that I have is that if we can agree to a level that we want them to produce the report at, that I think what we've heard from them is that we should have a deliverable in time for the next meeting.
Now that delivery, are we incurring any more costs with this?
It's closing out the report.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep, it's the final report.
Okay.
Does
That's all I had questions on the PayPoint part, but I have budget questions.
That's fine. Does anybody have an objection to letting PayPoint know that we would like to proceed with the report being compiled at 35% of market rate and acknowledging that the town's goal would be to work toward achieving 50% of market rate? Does everybody feel like that's a fair assessment?
Before we go forward,
Okay.
I just want to say, I want to say that today I attended a staff meeting. And we have the town of Berlin and the citizens of the town of Berlin. They have a wonderful staff. They have folks that are committed to their positions. They have folks that are committed to providing high-quality services. They have a staff that is committed to them. And I'm of the opinion we should show our staff that same commitment. These are wonderful people that actually work for us. And these folks need to be appreciated and know that we appreciate them. And you can sit here and give all the accolades you want and yeah, good job and all that kind of stuff. But somewhere along the line, we're gonna have to pay these folks according to what according to how they benefit us as the citizens of the town of Berlin. And despite what Jay said earlier about this survey gives us a path forward, but I can only sit here and say that we have done it again. We have done it again this year by considering the needs of our staff again last. And that just irks me terribly. Because if we're gonna be in this business of providing services to the citizens of the town of Berlin, we don't do it. It's those folks on those tractors, it's those folks on those trash trucks, it's those folks that's driving those police cars, it's those folks that are taking our bills downstairs. We're gonna have to show these folks actually how much we appreciate them. And I wish with my entire being that we could do more this year. But folks, going forward, I don't want to see us in this position again where we're considering the needs of our staff last, because that's not the way this thing needs to work. If we don't have qualified folks to drive those tractors, to take those funds downstairs, to figure our budgets, and to hire our staff, where would we be? And these folks bring their expertise, their training and knowledge all to us. And we're going to have to start showing them, and I'm saying this to the taxpayers also. If we expect this high level of service, we're going to have to start showing our staff our appreciation by more than just talk, if you understand what I mean. But I am really letting down. I'm just let down. I'm just let down that this year we can't do more than this 35 percentile and a 2.25. That's all I got to say.
I will say that I share your frustrations about not being able to do more. But I did hear the concern about putting staff last year when we talked about this. And this year, I will say that at least from the staff level perspective, the very first meeting I had with staff was we're putting this amount into contingency for staff. And I've helped do that all the way through this process. So I hear you, but I think we have done a really good job of putting our human capital forward as a priority, and I want us to continue doing that.
Just let me say what I think of the $200,000 contingency. And this is only my opinion. And today, a term was used between the mayor and the chief. It was heavy lifting. And $200,000 for all we wanted to accomplish this year with staff and staff funding, in my opinion, is not enough. And you talk about heavy lifting, we had included in that $200,000, and I'm only talking about general fund now. This survey, bringing that up where it needs to be. We had impact of LEOPS as it relates to increased salaries and having to pay more fringe benefits. And then we had just general fringe benefits on the regular staff. And you talk about heavy lifting, I am actually amazed how we've been able to come up with 2.25 out of the $200,000, because that is a lot of figures contained in that $200,000.
And I want to give a shout out to our Human Resources Director, Kelsey Jensen, who worked quite a bit at the numbers and with PayPoint HR, with our finance director. And I gave the direction that I wanted us to use the full 200 to the fullest ability to be able to accomplish the what we could from the pay study, as well as something that could impact, and this came after, not just me, but after conversations with many of you, to make sure that, one, we were achieving the pay study goals, but two, that we were also able to make sure that all of our staff felt something in FY24. So I thank all of you for your help as well. I thank all of our staff, and I really thank our Human Resources Director and our Finance Director, who had to crunch these numbers a million times for us to get here. So, I mean, from meeting with staff initially to all the times that we've consulted on the budget as it's changed throughout this process to the work sessions, I really think that when we look at the 67 pages of this budget and the countless line items that are here, it's a really good team effort for what we're able to accomplish in FY24 and how we're able to overcome some of those variables that we've had to face, which are pricing pressures across the board, staffing challenges with recruitment and retention. I think we're putting a solid foot forward here for the people we represent, the folks that we employ here in the town of Berlin to provide those vital services. I think it's a really good job, honestly.
So if we do if it's decided to do 35% market this year, next year we'd be looking at 15% and a COLA to get them to 50, correct?
Well, I think
Is that how that?
I think Councilmember Nerf said it well. This is a start, right? We're going to
Looking ahead.
right, and I think that's very smart to look ahead. I think the very next thing that we're doing is going to be figuring out where folks fit in the step and grade side of things, and that's going to have some cost ramifications to it as well. This isn't a one and done thing. I think we're going to have to continue to make some progress. One thing that came up, as Vice President Burrell mentioned, and I'm sure you recall at the meeting, and Councilmember Green as well, not that others didn't want to attend, but it was just a closed meeting with staff, that this is a first step, and we're trying to get folks with the merit, with longevity placed along that scale. It's not a perfect one size fits all.
you said going forward, we're trying to get to the 50th percentile.
Correct.
So answer Jack's question.
What's that?
Jack's question was that if we do 35 this year, are we gonna consider next year bumping up another 15% to bring folks up to the 50th percentile? Or are we gonna place them on the scale where they are and not have those bumps?
Though we would still, I think that the group would still, from my conversations with what we've had so far, is that we would still like to see a step and grade system, and that would require those bumps along the way. Now, the numbers that were originally provided, and I think Kelsey said this very well this afternoon, the numbers that were provided by PayPoint HR originally started that scale really, really low on the step and grade side of things, much lower than 35%. And then it placed folks with the, what was it, step 10 or 11 potentially being that midpoint of 50% of market.
It would have been, yeah, you would have had to have been here for 10 years to hit 50%. So yeah, step 11.
So we're trying to navigate what that placement would look like, where the starting scale of that would be.
But the goal is to get a program in place where we don't have to figure this out every year.
Every
Where
year.
numbers are there, we can just move forward, and the staff isn't put last. They know what they're gonna get.
Right, and I'm not disagreeing, but what I was saying is if we do the 35 now, and then next year we do the step and grade, then the lowest step is automatically going to be 15% higher than to get them to the 50, to be in the 50th percentile to start the
Even though
steps,
some people
right?
are already higher than them.
Right.
35.
Well, then, that's,
So that all has to be calculated.
yeah, and that's really an
Mayor's
admin thing, I would think.
What's that?
That's really an admin thing, I would think,
Right.
with our input kind of towards the middle end-ish of that, in my opinion. But what I'm saying is, looking at next year, if we're doing 35, then the lowest, in my head, anyway, I could be miscalculating, the lowest grade will automatically have that 15% in it to get them to the 50, and then that's where you go from there. Am I interpreting that
I
correctly?
don't think it's that simplistic. I
There
don't
there are
think there
factors
will-
such as tenure, which will, because part of what the purpose of the step and grade is going to be, is going to establish what a brand-new, inexperienced, minimally educated perhaps, employee will come in at that step 1, grade 1, for whatever their position is.
Entry level.
Which might be
Entry
lower
level,
than that.
thank you. That word escaped me.
All right, that cleared it.
So that's part of what gets factored into that step and grade. It's not just about existing employees, it's also about if we are hiring a new employee, where will they hit?
I think that those are, my goal would be to hopefully have a representative from PayPoint at the work session, if possible, to be able to have some of those questions vetted out during the process as well. But it's important that we try to think forward a little bit, to your point.
Yes.
Mayor, I just want to echo a little bit with Councilman Burrell said. I just want to shout out to our utility funds. We keep discussing the general fund. We had a set aside number, and we worked within the bracket of 200,000. And general fund driving the decision and mechanism for what percentile we're going to fall with the study and what COLA. But utility funds are following the general fund. If we're deleting the one-time payment from general fund, all of the one-time payment deleted. And if we're making a decision to put everybody at 35 percentile, the water, sewer, electric, and stormwater is falling right in the same steps.
So Natalie, that's actually, I'm sorry, Councilmember Green, that's actually a question that I wanted to ask. I don't know if I emailed it, I might have forgotten. But can the utilities absorb this additional payroll?
The 35% plus the two and a
Right,
quarter.
I mean, is that,
So-
It's
It's in the
reflected
budget,
as
right?
of today, as of right now,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
But there are some assumptions that are
Yeah.
being made as well. So some of those assumptions, correct me if I'm wrong, involve some of the water is getting pulled from other projects may be getting funded through different ways to help cover some of the expenses. Is that correct?
There is no changes been made.
Okay.
All of
Then I
the
stand corrected.
changes were made, the funds were able to carry, but that's not my intent to highlight that the decision for general fund carries across to the utility funds.
Okay.
And rightfully so. We all agree on that, don't we?
Yeah.
Councilmember Green?
Yeah, no, I guess I've pretty much accepted it over the last month that this is not going to have the best outcome that we all would like. You know, I mean, Councilman Burrell comments about, you know, it's a discouraging situation to be in. And I feel like we're trying to fix something that has been many years in the making. You know, the last 5 years, employee adjustments of COLA have been 11.5%, including a 0% in 2019. Talk about why we're at where we are. That's where we're at. You know, it's very unfortunate that there was a 0% year and a 1.5% year. Last year, this council did a 5%, which makes that number look better at 11.5% COLA over 5 years. You know, we're just in a pickle in that we have the numbers now in front of us. We see it. You know, 35%, when we first started this, I can't imagine that would have been the outcome. But I do side with that I want every employee to be impacted. Yeah. Those that have been here for 10 years, that have, you know, or longer, you know, that are adequately paid, need to be annually shown the love of a COLA. And it's not really the love, it's just fair, you know. And, you know, earlier, I mean, I have a little micro business, so, I mean, it's easy for me to look at salaries, and that's really where the budget starts. And I know everybody, I think we're all in agreement that how it's been done, it shouldn't be this process. I do believe that the grade system and step system will eliminate that. You know, I hope that the administration brings to the council, you know, that sort of program, and this elected body should really only be deciding the COLA, in my head. That's how it's done in the grade and step systems in other governments. And that COLA is linked to the outside influences of the world, you know, what's going on with inflation and those sorts of things. So I know we're heading down the path. I mean, you know, it was disheartening. I feel like it's disheartening to be in this position right now, but, you know, 35%, 2.25 COLA. I'd like to see the COLA be higher, personally, but I'm willing to accept it. But I did hear earlier tonight that because of the playground grant being declined, since 55,000, that we may have 30,000 left. What happens to that 30,000? Do we consider trying to use that in a way as well to address the COLA? Or, I mean, I don't know, you know, we're talking about 37.5%, those sorts of things, you know, I don't know that that's really the position. But, you know, I don't want to see underutilized, underreported revenues put us in this constraining position. And if we have 30,000 there, well, for one, where's that going to go? Would be a question.
I would recommend contingency right this moment because we do have a couple outstanding items like that grant that we would probably be receiving feedback on that may redirect some of that funding.
Okay. Yeah, I can move forward with that. So really, I mean...
May I ask to consider placing the one-time payment back? And that would give an incentive at the holiday for people to have that not spread by the percent, but just to have that payment during the holidays.
Right, look, I mean, remember I made that motion in November because I feel like it was important to get it in. That is certainly in our wheelhouse up here as a council, right? I mean, I had never expressed an opinion to remove that, quite honestly.
What's the total for the one-time?
General fund is around 25,000.
It varies, different amounts have been given.
For the general fund, and for right now, if you you would approve general fund, utilities funds can cover it by their contingency amounts, because their amounts are much smaller.
Maybe it's because I was in a room of employees earlier today, you know, honestly, I mean, look, you know, would be fine with that, considering everything that we have gone through tonight here in this conversation. And Councilman Morrell, I hear you know, where you are. You know, maybe that's a compromise. I'm open to that, and I'll hear from the rest of the council.
25,000.
I will say that the one-time payments were not removed on a whim.
No.
They were removed based off of conversations with this group. If there's an appetite to reapply those, we would like to hear that. But that's not the direction I've heard from the body thus far. So, and I would also say that, how much do we have? $30,000 potentially in funds that are available. I want to reiterate that we do have an outstanding item that I hope is going to be a solved outstanding item, but just be cognizant of that as well.
We will find that out tomorrow, I believe. I don't believe
I think so too. I don't think it's going to linger too much longer.
Yeah, it's actually not in the packet. It's, the Councilman Orris saw the packet today, and it's not in there.
Well, I mean, I can pick up on that if you'd like.
Yeah, because I really do think,
I was just kind of going to do the pay and then go into the budget.
well, it is
But-
linked, Phil. You know, I
Yeah.
brought that up with the income
So-
tax last.
So if y'all don't mind, I looked at the work session, the county budget work session tomorrow they have. And in their packet, they have, I assume they operate as there's a little finance committee that meets and goes over everything and then approves, makes recommendations to the commissioners. That's what I'm gathering is happening here. So on county grants to town, I am in Berlin, yeah. The unrestricted 465, yes. Some other potential, I guess, bearer of bad news. The Rails to Trails Fund to offset grant of 73,796 request retain FY23 funds is at 0. The Flower Street Roundabout Phase 1 request to encumber FY23 funds is at 0. And the shared revenue from income tax, to piggyback on Councilmember Green, the committee is reviewing a revenue increase of $555,360 total. The liquor license is the same as it was last year, it looks like. And that is just a committee recommendation to the commissioners. Obviously, I have no idea what they're going to do, but I think that it was important to kind of bring up, because the budget includes the 122 and the Rails to Trails. So if that is, I mean, if we have the 30,000, that's probably going to have to go to cover the loss of the 122 at least a little bit. And I think that's the outstanding item that Mayor Tyndall was referring to. So there's a lot going on in this budget year, and there's a lot going on, and we still have to talk about business licenses and how we're going to do that. So. Yeah. I think it sounds to me that this is the official presentation of the budget from the mayor's office, and that office has recommended 35 and 2.25. And that seems to be, to me, after reviewing the budget and making ideas and suggestions and reviewing it and taking a step back and looking at it again, that's where it's going to be. Unless we really decide to do something different and figure out how to pay for it.
Councilmember Nichols, you haven't said anything yet.
I've got some ums.
Yeah.
I'm trying to read over it.
She's not easy to read. She's not easy to read. I will say, I mean, this is tough. This is tough. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. I truly felt that, and this is in all due respect, that the 122 was going to be a hard sell with the retitle. So in my brain, just preparing for that, and that's just with thinking worst, you know what I mean, worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, that's where it looks like that, maybe.
We're not there yet.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong.
But
No one is, and nothing is set in stone as of yet. However, you know, in the 11th hour, it looks like we should prepare for the worst case scenario. that being said, I mean, this is tough. The 35%, again, of market value. I don't want anybody to get that caught up in a 35% raise and start texting and calling and saying, you know, why, how can you do that to us, the taxpayers? Nobody's saying 35% salary increase. That's not at all what we're saying. 35% of the market value, meaning that they are at 35% of the level of what someone in their job description would be paid. So I mean,
Because many are below.
right, many are definitely below that. This is, I mean, we came into budget year, we came into '24 knowing that this was going to be a rough season all the way around. There was going to be some moments where we were gonna walk out of here not so happy. And I'm not saying that I wanna do that, as it was said in the past, at the discretion, or at the leaving, let the employee be the one who walks away with the brunt of it. But, I mean, and I'm not saying but as if that's what we're doing. At the moment, I can't see anything different as far as the one-time payment goes. I'm not saying that it won't happen, it won't surface, because we're not completely done. But today, I don't know, this is tough.
So what I'm hearing from the group is that we can at least let PayPoint HR know that we would like them to finalize the report at 35 with the goal of achieving 50 when we can, that's our goal to work toward.
But the goal of achieving 50 doesn't mean within the
It
next.
doesn't define the period.
Right,
It
the time
defines
period,
it
for
as
sure.
a goal of the mayor and council to work toward 50% of market rate for these positions. I think that's, we got to give them some direction, otherwise we're not going to have a report to discuss
Well, yeah, they're back.
in 2 weeks, which is really a week by the time we have to turn it around for a packet.
Do they develop the step and grade program, or do we do that internally?
I think we're at a point where we can start looking at that internally. We've begun to try and plot those things in an effort to see how much we could achieve this fiscal year. It's a lot to try and get us where we need to go. We were originally given, what was it, 10 grades, I think, as a framework in the PayPoint HR study draft. We wanted to see that more mimic the county's version with, I think, 25 grades, and then keeping consistent with what PayPoint HR recommended, which are 21 steps, so working left to right. So we're trying to build that framework out, so adding the additional components. And then the next part is plotting people on that based off of longevity.
I just want to make sure we get that in play.
Yeah, the goal would be after this budget's passed, probably within the first 2 quarters of FY24 to work through putting folks on that ladder. That way, when we figure 2 quarters in, we start to have fun with this process all over again.
Yeah, they did assign people 2 grades at their current one they proposed, so all we would be doing is if we're adding some grades in there, we might space some of those out a little bit more. But, I mean, they've given us the blueprint. We just have to put it how we want.
I just want all the employees to know that we're committed
Yes.
to making that happen.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I would like to begin this as soon as
Right.
I can. Yeah.
So if I could just move on to some general budget questions.
Sure,
I mean,
go ahead.
do you feel you have direction to give to people?
Yes, I think I've
Yeah.
got consensus on that, I think. So we'll provide that to them in the morning, and hopefully we'll have a report, which I think we're all understanding that would be here in time for the work session. So,
And this may sound confusing, but try to word it. I'm over here doing like calculations, so don't think I'm like sitting here texting or something, but I figured out that sworn officers make up, their salaries make up 36% of our budget. So if you are looking to, get an idea of like, future COLAs or something, they're about 36% of that general fund. 64% of that is non-sworn staff in the general fund. And then based on that FICA and state retirement. Non-sworn total, if you combine those two, would be 18.65%, and sworn would be 44.65%. So if you're using any of that to figure out whatever you guys are, figuring out in your heads, then that might be a good starting point. At least you know how to break that budget out into a general idea there, so.
Thank you. Councilmember Worsthey?
Yeah, so just on the, this is, I'm just really speaking to general fund as well, to this right now. So page 2, which would be 01-4001-3463, general overhead stormwater contribution of 21,856. It's on there that stormwater has never really contributed before, and we know why. But I was just wondering where that 21 came from, because I thought the additional, well, where did it come from? I don't want to assume. Just stormwater in general?
Stormwater had contingency. In the past, we did not close the fund with the balance remaining. So for this particular year, once the salaries adjusted and everything got recalculated, the stormwater was able to contribute to general fund. So that's the reason I'm placing the overhead on the stormwater for the first year.
From stormwater contingency?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure it sounds like it's not from the capital fees.
No.
Okay. And then just real quick, Natalie, please.
Stormwater does not have capital fees.
Well, is it coming from the additional fee?
No.
And then if you could just explain for those listening at home, please, because we have the general overhead in revenue, and then we have transfers to reserves, and then it sounds like it's just verbiage, contribution from stormwater and all those type of wordings. So can you please explain, just quickly, how that interfund transferring is working for the good of...
In the past years, sewer fund and stormwater fund been borrowing from general fund to close to break-even point because of insufficiency in revenues and operational capital expenditures. So over the years, sewer fund accumulated a large amount that was reduced by half, I believe 4 years ago. There is still balance remaining on the sewer, and the same situation with the stormwater. So we have agreed in the past that if the fund is closing in a good standing at the end of the year to repay back general fund, it's interfund transfer, it has nothing to do with the budget. But that is a budgeted amount to show that transfer exists, to repay due to FROMS. That's the amount you see out there. And the offset is contribution to reserve is basically to neutralize that on the budget. It's not income and revenue to spend, it's interfund transfer. So there is a small amount of $10,000 on the stormwater, because the stormwater have about $190,000 due back to general fund. And it's an over $1 million due back from sewer fund, which the transfer on this budget of $300,000 for this particular year, fiscal 24, which will not happen until the very, very end to assure the fund operating successfully.
So there's no fixed amount from year to year. You did it this year because it helped balance.
We agreed on from 300 to 350 as a good pass during the audit discussion with BKS, and the stormwater, basically a small amount of 10,000 if it's possible.
And, okay, thank you, Natalie, for that. That's all the questions I had, I think, for general fund. There's a lot going on. Would it be possible, and this is, please no rush, not on this at all, but in future budgets, where we have, I think I emailed, this was a while back, so no thing, but if we can label things that are paid with impact fees, that would be just with like a little I, you know how you have the CF for carry forward?
They're labeled on this
Okay.
budget.
Well, where?
Which line item? Well, impact fees, they're only in general fund.
Yes, but I understand they're under like revenue, and,
And there is a capital project, if you refer to a capital project, it would say funded by either ARPA impact fees or
So, okay, so then snowplows, how are they covered?
Snowplows, are we
Give
talking
us
about
a-
capital
give us a
Which
project?
would be page 26. Actually, that whole line right there, so it would be 0153205255 capital outlay equipment for streets. So I am going to assume that the paving is impact fees, or they may be highway user revenue.
You said page 26.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
I don't
You're
think
saying
general.
Bryan Avenue paving?
Well, any of the paving, that would be generally an impact fee or highway user revenue, right?
Not
So-
necessarily. I mean,
Or regional.
you're saying broadly.
Broadly.
Yes.
Or
So
it
it
could
can-
be a federal general fund expenditure.
Correct, there are a couple different pathways.
Okay, so let's assume then that for this, is Bryan Avenue paid with impact fees or highway user
Just
revenue?
give me one second.
Yeah, no problem.
So page 26.
Oh, it's the HMO right there. Okay, are you on 26?
Right.
Okay, so I see backhoe, the first one, backhoe 125 imp fees and 25 HUR.
That's highway use
Right,
revenue.
but there's nothing else like the sidewalks, Tripoli Street.
The
Are those-
Bryan Avenue paving, the paving, the Commerce Street paving, pretty much all of the street projects, they're highway user revenues.
Okay, and I know that you sent that out in another form, but what I'm asking, like, it's obviously you can do it because you have backhoe, imp fees, and HUR. So what I'm just asking in the future is whatever is, if you put it by the line, so how are snowplows being paid for?
Impact fees.
Impact fees. So then it would, for example, if you could do snowplows, impact fees.
I'll fix it before we adopt the budget.
Okay, thank you.
If I can just draw your attention just to page 23, line item 01, 53, 10, 52, 55.
Oh, yes.
All of those items are noted as,
Those,
they
okay,
have
you do
imp
have
at the end,
okay.
indicating impact.
All right, I appreciate it.
Just to.
Did not see that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But if we can do that everywhere, that would be great. And I'm going to do my usual annual thing. This has been a rough budget process, and I think that the later tax rate was very helpful, but we may want to also look at doing the tax rate and budget at the same time in the future. It's my usual thing.
Could I get you to go up on the rate?
Oh, funny guy.
I'm just asking, I
Yeah,
was
well,
looking for
no,
clarity.
If you don't ask, the answer's always no. Oh, and one more thing, we did receive the contracts back from fire and EMS. What are your plans on, I know we just got it today, so.
Yeah, I haven't looked. Have we had any changes or requested changes to the contract?
And they sent their own contract again.
Oh, well,
So if we were.
it's going to be a challenge, given the fact that we've asked them to not do that and asked multiple times for
Yeah.
replies on our contract. So I have not reviewed that yet. We will determine the path forward for our next meeting.
We did just receive those.
See, we just did, we just did it today.
Definitely.
We're talking old budget.
All right, so anything else for the first reading? This is no adoption or anything like that, no vote, it's just a first reading of the budget. Thank you all for your feedback and comments.
And Natalie, do you feel like you've got clear direction?
I think as clear as opaque can be.
I don't think we're changing much, except I'm inserted some description and funded by, and I'm awaiting still a decision, keeping the Worcester County grant or removing it. And if I am removing it, we will have to discuss how we fund it, 122,000. That's the direction.
So I believe that's tomorrow, right? Is it?
We're going
there?
to tune in.
Okay.
Call your commissioners. Anybody at home, call your commissioners. I'm sending some love, commissioners. Let's see, so items for approval. Motion 2023-12, business license fees from our Economic and Community Development Director, Ivy Wells, is going to run point. And I believe, so there's a staff report included with this item, and Ivy, do you want to elaborate?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
At the last Mayor and Council meeting, the discussion was brought up about a different structure for our business license fees. And the following day, I met with Town Administrator Mary Boland, and after further discussion along with Mayor Tyndall, we came to the conclusion that it's a little too soon for this year to be able to construct an entire business license structure based on whether it's location or type of business. And it was recommended that we follow through with the motion that was presented at the last Mayor and Council meeting, with the caveat that in the staff meeting that we will review and consider recommendations for further refinement of the business license fee structure based on suggestions by the council at the last meeting. So the motion reads as it did previously, where business license fees from $75 move from $75 to $150 for FY24, with the assumption that a new structure will be in place for FY25.
So Ivy, what is the thinking behind, I know this was probably done in 2009, but what is the thinking between 150 for business except financial organizations which pay more? And is that a bank?
I can tell you that historically, from when did I start working here? Years ago, it has always been that the financial institutions, banks, have been double whatever the regular business license fee. That's, I can't give you any more insight into why than that.
Would that be for a financial advisor's office as
No,
well?
it's
Only
for
banks.
banks.
Mary.
I think we have.
Yes. It's
I'm sorry,
financial
Mary.
advisors.
Oh, okay.
So we have 4 businesses in total, 2 banks and two financial advisors. So any financial advisory or banks fall into the category.
I would like to clarify, and I probably overlooked this at the last meeting, but I think that if we're going to move the fees, just to be clear on what my level of support is, I think keeping the financial institutions at the same level as the other businesses, if we have one across the board, I would suggest that we do that. I apologize for the confusion in that.
I kind of look at it as, it's a license to operate in town, and I just don't understand why a financial institution pays more. I don't understand that.
And I agree with you. I think that it should be a level playing field.
Yeah, I don't understand. And then also, I was, in your discussion currently, are you planning to perhaps look at out-of-town businesses that do business in town as a trader fee or something like that?
So
Is that part of your discussion?
So part of
It is
it.
part of the discussion that we'll have after this,
Oh,
going
yeah,
forward for next year.
So that's, okay.
The difficulty with the outside businesses is it's almost entirely an honor system. Because unless you had someone riding up and down every street every day, it would be impossible to track. But we will put it in place
That takes me
after
back.
discussion and go from there.
That takes me back to the code enforcement.
I was about to say
Exactly.
those words.
Exactly.
Well,
It's,
Contractors have to come to the planning office and
Yes.
apply for a permit. So when they do that, essentially, there would be a separate business license also for them to do businesses in town. Another business approached me, between the last council meeting and this council meeting, there's been a lot of ideas about business license fees. There's also been an expression about other real estate agents coming into town, instead of other real estate agents should,
Listen.
if they're going to sell houses here, and we only have maybe 3 real estate agencies in town, maybe 4, but there's a variety of other real estate agents that actually sell houses in town. So there's a lot of different things that we need to look at, but we need to take the time to be able to look through. I have research here that.
Such a simple thing, Ivy, it's a trader's license. Like you said, they come before the planning commission. why couldn't that be set up now at the 150 rate or 100 rate, whatever we decide, and put that in play starting with our fiscal year? I mean, it's,
The business license as defined in our charter is to operate business with physical location basically attached to the town of Berlin.
You would have to, you would
Oh,
have to amend the charter.
Well, that changes things.
You
That
can, you
changes
don't need
things.
to go back and talk. But my thought,
So in order to, so hold on, let's get this clarified. In order to adjust course and require anybody doing business within the town to have a town of Berlin business license,
We'd have to amend
So
the
you
code.
would have to.
it would have the code.
You
Yes.
would have
We'd
to
have to amend the
change,
code.
the description, because if you're talking about a business person coming to do business in the town, does not have a physical location, that will not be fallen under the business license application.
And what's the time frame that that would take?
Well, you get an amendment drafted, probably within a week, it would have to be advertised,
Can't,
we'd have to have a first reading.
Can we have that in our next, if there's an appetite by the group to move forward with that?
appetite,
Can, yeah, I think there may be.
what does appetite?
Can we have that in enough time that it could be first reading for the next meeting?
I don't see why not.
So I think there's an appetite, but the question is, how will we project what that number's gonna be, right? If we do this. I mean, they do expect it, landscapers expect it, plumbers expect it, electrical.
If I may, I receive a variety, sometimes we'll get business licenses from people who are doing business in town, and then I have to call them and say, you don't have a physical location. But another suggestion could potentially be, instead of having them apply for a business license, we would create a contracting license. So we wouldn't have to change anything, we would just create a new fee structure for those contractors coming into town. And this way, it's not
You still
a business
have- you still
license
have
is
to
for a
change
business.
that.
It's still gotta be in the
It
code.
still has to be put in the code.
Right, but the code wouldn't have to change, it would just be an additional amendment to the code.
Yes, but it still wouldn't take effect until it takes effect.
Right, exactly.
So wouldn't it be easier than just to have like a site review for non, if you're a person coming into town and you're going to the permit office, can't we just have a non-town business?
It's a
Permit
permit,
rate.
it's a permit to operate, to do business.
I'm just saying, just to raise the fee for that and instead of going through the charter thing.
You
It's
still
the
have
code.
to, you still have to account for it in the ordinance.
Right, it's
We can't
Okay.
just impose fees without it being,
And let's just
And
clarify,
Dave's
it's the
not
code,
here.
not the charter.
Right, Dave's not here, so I don't know what the permit fees cover. I don't know if potentially a license is already included in the, a
No,
license
it's
fee.
not.
I don't know.
So then, in an effort,
technically building permits are applied for by the property owner. So often, the contractor is the one who comes in and does the application. But technically, it's the property owner that is obtaining the permit. So it's not included in the permit right now. It
So I
would
guess-
have to be an additional,
So in my head, I'm looking at I'm looking at a license.
right. But if you're
So-
tying it to building permits as a way of tracking
All
it,
right, well,
or, not all, of course, not all things come with a building permit. A landscaper, for instance,
Right.
does not get a building permit, sorry, don't
You're
mean
fine.
to hit you. Unless they're going as far as, I don't know.
Could you give us
excavating.
an example, what are we talking about, the upgrade business?
So an HVAC company coming in to do work on your house to either fix your system or service it, they would have to get a trader's license at the cost, maybe it's $100 to do business in the town of Berlin. A lot of towns do it, I know Ocean City does it.
most of our
Yeah.
neighborhoods.
It's
So
not,
we
it
had a
is not
kitchen-
unusual.
I'll just give you an example. We had a kitchen remodel done in my house, and the electrician thought, he asked, what's the trader license fee? There is none. So they expect it, and that's the thing, they really do expect it. So I think it's a missed opportunity to help offset some expenses, you know?
well, if they want to give it.
nicely put.
Yeah, I do think it's
Revenue
truly, I actually had a story on the landscaping company, to say it right now, the Moores, they sold their business, and they were going through all the increasing expenses, and it was like, they had 15 or so different towns that they had to pay license fees for, you know? So just because it's all fresh on our mind, maybe I'll dig deeper on the research on that, how much that is, but it's an example of mounting costs, so it's an expected expense. But I do come back to So I agree, I think we should definitely do it, but whether or not it affects the budget, I guess is, you know.
It'll be difficult to project the revenues on that.
Yeah.
And what I would advise is, and I think it's the same thing the finance director would say, is that you give it a year to kind of
Right.
see what it looks like.
Yeah.
But when we're looking at this ordinance, or motion, 2023-12, where it says a motion of the mayor and council of the town of Berlin approving the increase of annual business license fees from $75 to $150 for most businesses, could we just make that say for all businesses
Yes.
operating within the town?
Sure. But I don't agree with making the financial institutions the same price as the other businesses.
I'll tell you where my mindset is with that.
Okay, tell me.
And
Tell
correct me
us.
if I'm wrong, when we send them the bill, they pay it. And we don't have to, the reason I say that is we don't have to chase them for it.
No, I
And I would say that by and far, with that being said, it requires less staff time. And if the fee is truly going to offset the costs, I think that they typically pay it when they receive the bill. Some others require a little bit more follow-up. And that's why I say that it justifies the same rate as others. That's my thought on it.
So you're 150 all across the board?
Across the board, all businesses operating within the town of Berlin.
So I'll make a motion to approve the increase in fees to all businesses at $150.
I have a question. Murray, when we started this conversation, you said for as long as you can remember, banking institutions have been more.
Correct.
How long is, how long?
32 years?
32 years?
Yeah. It was that way when I
And
started.
I would suggest that if it's not broke, let's don't fix it. If they have been paying, let's allow them to continue to pay.
I respectfully disagree, VP.
Well, that's why we're all
Yep, I'm
five
just
different
saying.
people.
Does
We
your
all
motion
got-
still stand?
we all got-
So we do have a motion on the table to adopt motion 2023-12 with the amendment for reading for all businesses operating within the town of Berlin.
I'll second that.
And I have a second by Councilmember Orris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that the motion 2023-12 with amendments passes with 4 council members in support and Vice President Burrell in opposition.
We need a motion for the charter.
I think we can move forward with the charter change stuff. Can you please, or not charter, code, my apologies.
Yeah,
Code.
I'll get that going.
And we'll get the first reading in and advertised for hopefully our next meeting.
Well, one of the items discussed when this came up was having a special fee district related to downtown or the Main Street corridor. I would like to have that considered going forward.
That's also just, I'm sure you know this, but it's in the staff report. When the council asked for that, we did work through the analysis of that, and it is in the staff report. Is there anything you'd like to add on that, Ivy, regarding Vice President Burrell's?
No, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut Ivy off, but the $50 additional fee was not included in the motion.
No, it was not.
No, listen, what do you mean?
That's part of what we'll think about
Oh,
going into
okay.
FY '25.
Okay.
What are you referring to, John?
On the staff report there, it said under financial impact, all license fee double, then it says if 50 additional
Oh,
fees.
yeah, that was not in the,
Okay.
It was to answer the request at the
Right.
last meeting,
Gotcha.
but
Yeah, I look forward to hearing about that because I just, you know, there was a time Dave brought this up at some point, Engelhardt, about tying a fee to a business permit, the parking of the concept. Parking was a little bit of an issue this past weekend. But but so I like that. But it's like this deep dive, I think is a great thing. And I have a question for Ivy. I mean, and I don't know, so I'm just curious, I'm just asking, do you have a sense that the businesses in town, that all the businesses are licensed? And I'm not pointing a finger, I'm just curious. Do we feel? like-
Yes.
Okay. So you tell
Yes,
everybody.
there are some we have to chase down throughout the year. You know, oh, I didn't know I had to pay, and the way the business license is run is the license is good from July 1 to June 30. So most pay when we bill them. Some don't pay until September, some don't pay until April.
Well, I'm gonna pay mine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for the advice.
Chad comes number 2 after his staff. His staff.
And we have, when we issue the actual license, we do put on there that they have to have their license put up so people can see, you know, because Dave will go in, I'll go in, and I'll always look for the business license to make sure that it's posted.
Yeah.
I think newspapers should pay double.
Newspapers.
Media organizations.
Only one.
All right, up next is item number 4 on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, we appreciate it. I placed the discussion item regarding speed on here with myself and the chief of police running point. Councilmember Orris and I had talked offline as well. There was a post about a public meeting regarding speed. That is something he is coordinating regarding a special request from his district in conjunction with the chief of police, but it's narrowly focused on Broad Street. I wanted to put this on here because I think my understanding, and I believe the chief's understanding as well, is that we would like to have a more public discussion regarding speed as it relates to the speed cameras. As far as like the areas to review and study as that process moves forward. That's my understanding of it, and I want to reiterate to folks, and I'm sure the chief would do the same thing, that if somebody's speeding in your neighborhood or on your street, the number to call, chief?
1333.
410-641.
1333.
That's all right.
Well, by the time I call, they've already spent past.
So please let the chief of police and
We'll go ahead and relay this real quick. Again, we're talking about a lot of actual developments or streets, residential areas. One thing we've actually done many details, but when we do details on certain streets, we find out that 35 to 40% are the individuals that live on those streets. So again, undoubtedly. But we stayed on one street that actually is a hot point, 1 hour, 2 violators for that whole 1 hour. So we have to go ahead and make sure that we use our manpower in the best way that we can. We understand that during certain times, peak times, that means between 7:30 and 8:30 when everyone's going to the 5 schools in town. There's definitely a better need for enforcement, but unfortunately, we could have 40 police officers and not be able to go ahead and handle that level of enforcement. Again, when you find out one parent is going from the middle school to BIS and then to Buckingham, you know that's a swoop. And then everybody's rushing to Dunkin' Donuts. So again, we see that. The force multiplier is speed cameras, and we're definitely looking at that. We thought that we might have to do an RFP. Now we're looking at other contracts, and they are a sole provider for actually the technology we want to use. So our belief now is that we can go ahead and make the call to him and bring forth a contract and then start doing the study. Also, again, education, engineering, and enforcement. There are 3 E's. And we've actually been talking to the schools, they put it out, and then we actually have to have people slow down for a period of time. So again, we have to get that message out the best we can, and we're thinking of different ways to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Just folks leaving Stephen Decatur Middle now have to turn right.
Right. The changing patterns are very difficult for us.
And that puts them all on Flower Street.
Or turning in the daycare.
I agree, said most of them.
You turn. And when you're pulling in there.
Might be an
it's very
effective
challenging.
place for a roundabout. Sorry, what was it early?
Too soon, Mayor, too soon.
And with that, we had short notice, but again, during that period of time, we've had people that had to actually be there making sure that we didn't have those issues. Everybody's learned the pattern, but again, you're going to have kids at the high school. We did the same thing with the high school, and the kids were just come down because they didn't want to wait for the crossing guards, and they would turn right where Oceans East was and flip back around. So we understand if you force them one way, they're gonna figure it out. No one's gonna go all the way down Flower Street and come around to go back to West Ocean City. They're either gonna go down Murray Road or they're gonna make that U-turn.
You said it.
Well, I'll put it on as a discussion item. That's everything I've got, and I think everything from the chief. But if there's anything else anybody would like to add.
Well, I will say this, and this is just, and I wasn't gonna bring it to your attention, but I will since we're talking speed. You know, I was stopped one day and someone asked if they could put speed bumps down their little side road. And I said, no, you cannot. However, start taking photos and make those phone calls. And when I made the comment a minute ago, by the time I call, they're gone. That's what people say to me. So I say, take a photo if you can, describe the car, and if you happen to see where that car circulates, call those people's moms, because I did that last week at prom.
And again, when you say it was such and such a time, the same people come the same time. So again, now it's gonna be a little easier for us to enforce. We can look for that red car that is speeding down X Street, so. But
Were you guys consulted on the Stephen Decatur Middle School change? Were you consulted at all?
yeah.
I think we should move on to reports. Mayor, you're up.
I don't have anything to say.
Okay, are there any questions from the council regarding the staff report?
We knew.
Okay, if not, let's move on to comments from the public. Do we have any? Okay, let's move on. So just for my reminder, and if you don't mind, I can remind as you walk up, it's listed on the packet, but any person who may wish to speak on a matter at this regular session may be heard during the comments of the public for a period of 5 minutes or such time that may be deemed appropriate. Anyone wishing to be heard shall state their name, street name, and subject on which they would like to speak. Sorry, I have to say that.
Okay, I'm back for the second time to discuss, first of all, I'm Gladys Watson. I'm Seahawk and Oak Court, Berlin. My issue is, again, for the second time, the dog park and Stephen Decatur Park. I think it's a wonderful idea. I said that about 2 months ago. I missed last month. I'll be back next month, okay? My issue is how to deal with getting it done, okay? I don't have an idea as to whether or not signatures would help, like it was suggested I do farmer's market with a petition signing for the number of people who have dogs to get it rolling, okay? The other suggestion was that I look at signs as to what other parks are doing. Okay, the other park that I go to quite often is Ocean City. Ocean City's park, I think, is wonderful. It's a long ways for me because it takes me half hour to 45 minutes to get over there. Not really liking that, okay. I would like to see one over here, okay, because I'm close. I think there's a lot of dogs here. I think Main Street has a lot of dogs walking around. I think they would probably appreciate that, okay. I think a number of people here in the room have dogs and they would appreciate it to have a park over on this side of town, okay. I would like to have some pointers on how to get that job done. I don't have an idea how much it costs. Somehow I think what it would need is a fence, water, seating for the parents of these dogs, and the space is available in Stephen Decatur Park in the very back section. I go there quite often and look around, and it seems to be empty. So that's what I would suggest that it be. That's about it.
Thank you. We're trying to, there's a process with some open meetings to try and formalize the process for public comment, and we hear you, but we're also trying to not comment during the public comments period. So during the council comments. If the council would like to respond, or myself as mayor, we can do that during the comment section.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the mayor and council? If not, let's move on to council comments, starting with Vice President Burrell.
A couple of months ago, I brought up the need for assigned parking downtown related to various services that are provided downtown. And one of the things that was suggested was that for the locals that have business downtown, maybe a certain portion of the day there could be parking spaces set aside for those folks that may need to run into the bank to do some banking, or the one that has been brought up repeatedly to me is folks seeking dental services right over here. That he gets one lady that brings her grandchildren, and she often has to walk from the parking lot across from Stevenson Church to back to and for an elderly person, a person that's over 80 years old, that is a considerable walk. And she's asked that if there could be just a few spaces set aside for just a certain amount of time during the day, that would be for those customers only. It would help her, and I'm sure it would help other folks a great deal.
And we heard your request at the last time you brought it up, and I thought I interpreted it as the need for maybe an additional handicap placement, like closer to the downtown area and close to the financial services side of things. So we had talked about this at the staff level, possibly adding another handicap space for the area that we're working on by the Reverend Tinley mural. And I thought that's kind of what you were asking for, and that's the direction we were working in. But if not, let us know.
Well, I really would not. I think that the spaces should be open to whomever needs that service for just a certain amount of time during the morning or in the afternoon. Making it a handicap space would limit tremendously the folks that are allowed to access that spot. Just think, if Jen needs to go to the back downtown, maybe there can be a spot set aside for a fellow of his well-being.
His abilities.
Someone that does not require, someone that does not require that special parking, but just wants 5 minutes to run into the bank, or
so maybe like,
or a half hour to go to a dental appointment.
So I think we may have interpreted your request a little differently. So I apologize for that. We thought that it was maybe to identify a couple handicap placements. What I'm hearing is maybe adjusting the time from 2 hours in some locations, maybe down a little bit more to a different level is what maybe you're asking?
Yes.
30 minutes.
Like, yeah, I mean, maybe the identification
a
of some
30-minute spot.
Right.
Because handicap would limit the space to me.
Okay, yeah, I mean, well, I had misunderstood your request. So maybe let us see if we can identify a couple places where maybe a reduction from 2 hours to 30 minutes may be suitable, and then we'll come back to you.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought it up, because we were working in a different direction. Thank you. All right, Councilmember Nur?
Two things. First of all, Gladys, thank you for your recommendation of the dog park. I think that would be a wonderful addition to Berlin. I think it would be well received by the residents, so thanks for bringing that up. Number two, earlier in the day, we received the contracts from the fire department. I had sent an email asking if we could overlay fire company's version over our version and mark theirs in red. I guess, Dave, you have some technical difficulties.
I don't know how to do that.
Right, so is it possible staff to do that? Or someone that could?
Are you comfortable with perhaps Kate taking a look at that and working with those contracts? I just want to be clear.
I think we should also
But the letter
reiterate that our
discussed at
request,
this point is.
and we made it very clear to the fire company what our request was. We want to be open to working together, but it adds a significant amount of time, whereas if they say, these are the areas we would like to see changed, I haven't seen your email, but I'm just saying that that's what we had originally asked them, how many months ago? 4?
I sent those contracts out in February.
Like the earliest part of
Yeah,
February.
February 6th.
And they had altered certain
February
sections.
6th.
And I just want to see their changes next to ours.
They did attempt they had a sheet
Yeah.
with changes, but it was,
Done well.
Yeah, so let's take a crack at that. Kate, if you have some available time.
I can get that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just make it easier for the
I
council.
agree.
That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Nichols?
So I was listening to Mr. Burrell again in regards to the parking spaces. So I hear you when you say the part about dropping the children off at the dentist and then having to go look for a parking spot and then make your way back. Or even driving way out to wherever you're driving and you and the children walking back and leaving the person who takes the grandchildren. So in my brain, looking at this from a parent and a grandparent perspective, I don't want to walk all the way over Creation with these children if we've got to go to the dentist. Is it possible, you know those 4 spaces that are in front of the dentist office? See, my head just stood here and drew in big blue letters, dentist office. You know what I'm saying? In those parking spaces. And just put in those spots between blank and blank. So if you're not going to the dentist office, don't park in those spaces. You know what I'm saying? Because even if it's a 30-minute parking spot, I could have gotten there just 4 minutes before you arrived with those children to go into the dentist office.
You'll get into a very difficult area if you start reserving
Well,
public
and I
parking
hear you,
spaces.
I hear you
for
on that,
individual
but even if
businesses.
it's even, I mean, that's a little bit different, that's the dentist office, isn't it? And then are we talking are we talking about the one that's right there in the parking lot? That's a little bit, that's just a tiny bit different, so it's like a state-run agency, it's almost like going to the health department.
The bank will
No.
But the bank owns it.
Talking on Fifth Street.
Yeah, we're talking about the dentist on
Fifth
Fifth
Street.
Street.
On
He said the
Worcester
dentist
is,
office in the
No, I'm
spot.
talking about the dentist, way back here, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
That's-
that
a
lot is
local parking
actually
spaces
owned
there.
by Taylor Bank.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I was just thinking in my brain, because usually when I go to the dentist, I'm
That's
taking
what I thought,
everybody at
was
once,
Fifth
all 4 of my friends go at one time. And I'm not walking, I mean, I will if I have to, but it's just unkosher to have to make that trek across the street with those little children going to that spot when there are 85,000 spaces right there. I just wish that, when I was thinking of that office, that there could be like an agreement made, hey, listen, is it okay to have 2? Right
I
in the
think
parking
we've
lot,
got
right?
confusion. Are you talking about across from Burbage Funeral Home?
Yes.
The
That's
parking
that's
lot.
exactly what I'm talking about.
That lot is actually owned by Taylor Bank.
Right,
They
and
allow
then my-
public parking as a
Right.
courtesy. But I would say then that if the dentist office wants to have a conversation with Taylor Bank,
That's what I was
That would
thinking,
be-
maybe a little, hey,
Yeah.
listen, between hours blank and blank, would it be okay if at least 2 of these spaces be designated for our clients so that they can bring these children or elderly or whomever, because that's everybody that, it's not an age limit dental place. So little people and then old people, elderly people, attend that facility and having to go all over town to, yeah.
that would not be an action that the town could take. We could not
I'm just
designate
making a
spaces.
suggestion out
Yeah.
there to, you know, little hope dust, hope, trust, and pixie dust is what I'm putting out there. Hoping that somebody will hear that and make it happen for those folks. So
And-
Brandon's walking across the lot.
Anything else?
No.
Councilmember Wars?
Just a couple things to go with Councilmember Nichols' hope dust and pixie dust, or whatever that was.
Trust.
Whoever,
Trust and pixie
trust,
dust.
whoever would like to do that would reach out to the health department
Please.
to talk to folks about that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to follow up on the dog park, Ms. Gladys, thank you for that. I think a appropriate route for that for more discussion and move possibly forward would be for coordination with our Parks Commission on that. Maybe, I don't know, Mary, Kate, are you the liaison for that now?
We're in transition.
You're in transition, okay. Well, I don't want to speak, but if maybe Mary or Kate could reach out to Miss Gladys and see if she can come to a Parks Commission meeting, or see how that, I think that would probably be the appropriate first step for that. What do you?
We also, I was going to comment in my comments, but we also have that, as you all may remember, as part of our priority list that we've added and ranked accordingly. And that did come from the Parks Commission. So, so it is a priority project.
However, there are other projects ahead of it.
Right. Well, and we structured the numbering as well. So my message to Ms. Gladys before the meeting was to ask that, one, we appreciate the follow-up. Two, I wanted to make sure she had Sarah's contact information so that any new information could be shared. And then I asked Gladys also if when she goes to the different parks, if she could take a picture and send us the signs. Usually they say funded by.
Right.
So that maybe if there's a granting agency that we're missing, maybe we can pursue a grant in that specific direction. So I too appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that was clear direction. Since we're on the parking thing, and I know sometimes I email the group, everyone's in budget mode, and I email this thing that's out of left field, but other things are still going on, I don't want anything to go happen. But where are we on the electric vehicles for Tinley Lane?
Yes.
The chargers?
Tim could.
We're actually at the point we are ready to activate it. The only thing is that we have to set up a rate structure for the KWH sold for charging the vehicles. That's a process that has to go through the Public Service Commission, which Booth Associates, I've already reached out to them to come up with what the rate structure would be. So that's what we're at right now at that point.
Appreciate that.
Nothing with electric is.
But it is installed.
Yeah,
if you wanted to
get there.
But it's
installed.
It's
there.
installed, ready to go. We just can't activate it until we figure out what that rate structure is going to be.
And how was that four spaces?
Well, it has
Two.
Yep.
Two.
But it has the add-on ability for a couple more, right? Or no, it's
Yes,
just-
we can tap out of that and add another charger. We'll see how this one does and how much it's used, and then that'll determine, okay, do we want to add a second one, which would take up more parking spaces. But right now, it has two parking spaces associated with it.
Great, thank you.
And then once it goes live, it's automatically something that they can do, locate?
Yes, they have an app on their phone. It's handled through a company called ChargePoint. They handle all the billing, and it's all ran through the cloud, basically. They go to their app, they can actually see if somebody's already parked there, that type of thing. So it's all, through.
And it's all
through yourself.
non-Tesla vehicles, right?
Yes.
Tesla's a
All
converter.
vehicles.
Yes, a Tesla
Yeah,
cannot
all
plug
all
into it.
right.
Correct.
Yeah.
They have their own.
That's correct. They have their own plug that's specific to them.
And then, this is more Ivy. Do we still have the designated loading, unloading spot?
Yes,
Is it effective, in your opinion?
I
Did you
don't
know?
know. I don't monitor it, so I don't know.
UPS still stops on Main Street, so, and FedEx, we have to talk to them every now and then.
Okay.
But they're just running it for a second.
And then my last thing, Ivy, and I didn't, so I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, and we've only had a couple so far, but the events that I've seen and I've been at have been what I would consider BC levels, which is before COVID levels. So do you, from what we've had so far, are you kind of feeling and seeing that same thing? I mean, we've had the Washington Street parking concerns, but in general, do you feel that we're kind of getting to, well, actually the COVID emergency ends on Thursday, but nationally, but do you feel we're kind of back to
Yes.
back to normal? I guess?
Yes.
Okay. From an event standpoint?
Oh, yes.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Green.
Well, segue with that event, I mean, feel blessed to be able to live in Berlin and walk down from my house to go to events like Holiday that we had this past weekend. Berlin Chamber had an amazing, I'll just be the Jazz and Blues Bash, but it's just, I thought it was outstanding. The weather obviously could have been more perfect. The excitement, you know, when I'm out and about, I get a lot of compliments about this town. So I think it's important for all of us to realize that. I mean, there's a lot of gratitude for what we do and what you all do, I have to say. You know, so Saturday was that, and then Sunday, the farmer's market. I mean, that was, I mean, I don't know, those are say thousands of people over the course of the weekend. Most were, by the time we got there around 10:30, most were sold out or really had barely anything left. I mean, it's just a tremendous, and then we know how much effort it is, so I'm probably not going to let an event go by without recognizing, you know, you all, the Public Works team, Economic Development, everybody really, I don't want to leave anyone out. The event ends, and within an hour, you don't even know it's there. So that comes with a lot of work, so we appreciate it very much. And then Tim, I reached out to you a couple weeks ago about, just noticed a couple trees that didn't have lights still illuminated across from Stevenson. I know you and Jimmy took care of that. So within a week it was up and running, and appreciate that very much. That's just really quick, you know, this time of day when the days are longer, you don't always realize it, you know, that they're out. So appreciate the quick action on that. And then I want to say something about it for Chief that, you know, we all remember last June, Glenn Hilliard was shot in the line of duty. He spent 5 years with the Berlin Police Department. Chief, you spoke at his funeral. You're the chair of the Glenn Hilliard Legacy Scholarship Fund Committee. Today was a great day, you know, in that justice was served. He was found guilty. Mr. Davidson was found guilty on all counts, including first-degree murder. The jury got the case today, had it until Friday to deliberate. Actually, it only took a few hours, so that was a wonderful thing. You know, I happened to be at school, Berlin Intermediate School last spring. It was 2 days after Mr. Hilliard was killed, and his son, Trenton, was a student there, and he was, they call it the Rise Up ceremony, so he was moving from BIS to Stephen Cater Middle School, and that boy stood there, and there were lots of officers there, and obviously Mr. Hilliard couldn't be there, but it was amazing to see his poise, and everyone was so proud when there was a dry eye in the house. So today was a great day. I think, you know, we're happy to see justice being served, and you know, I met Mr. Hilliard once when he was a Berlin police officer, and just thought it would be worth mentioning that it's nice to see justice move quickly in this case.
Thank you. I want to add that, I mean, like many of us in this room, we all have our stories of Glenn. I served with him in the fire department. I worked with him here. It's sad, but I'm glad to see that justice was served. And I also want to say that what I really liked seeing was the community come together to support the law enforcement officers that were there at the trial, taking part in testifying and things of that nature. It was really nice to see the community come together, and I think it accents some of the best parts of why we live where we live. But that is, thank you. I want to also say the Jazz and Blues event went very, very well. I want to accent the first farmers market was a success, and that goes out to our town departments. The lamp posts out front are looking great. Tim, thank you. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that at all.
I wanted to mention it.
Go ahead.
I'm sure you're aware of the lamp post out front. We actually changed the color of the lamp post. We painted it gloss black, and then also the bulb has been changed into, it's an LED bulb, but it has the look of how the old lights used to look, the soft yellow. That bulb actually has an adjustment where we can adjust it down or up. If you want it to be brighter, we can make it brighter or lower it. Right now, it's pretty much on the lowest setting, but we can go brighter if need be. I would just like direction on what you think about possibly painting all the downtown poles that gloss black. Me personally, I think it really enhances the downtown area. The dark green-black, once it starts fading, it looks pretty bad. So at some point, I'd like your approval to go ahead and paint all of them gloss black.
And I think that the folks that I've heard from, and we got the feedback from the Historic District Commission as well, everybody thinks they look much cleaner, much more professional and historic, so thank you. In my opinion, move forward with it. Yeah.
So I'd like to move to
Thank you, sir.
Tim's request to change the color to that gloss black.
I'll second that.
And the lighting color
Yes.
to the historic yellow.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Burrell,
Second.
a second by Councilmember Orris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that you can start painting tomorrow.
Thank you.
Well, if the weather holds out.
I think it's supposed to rain, so.
I agree. That's
We
what.
got the flower patch.
Go ahead.
I have a question about the bulb. When you say, and I have to go look at it, but when you say historic soft yellow,
It's
is that?
It's different, you'll see.
It's like a light,
It's
right?
candlelight than
Yeah.
bright white.
Remember the old lights?
Yeah.
that used to have?
So that's,
Looks sort of like that, but it's an LED.
so is the goal hint overall long-term to change all of our tree lights to that
Not
soft
long
white?
term. Well,
Or am I speaking out of turn?
no, hey, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Uplighting offers an excellent opportunity for that. Roundabouts are excellent for turning around. Should I elaborate, Councilmember?
Well, okay. I'm a fan of the soft, light, antique-looking light, so that would be kind of. that would
We
be really
all
cool.
arrived at the same point
Yes.
sooner or later.
That was a roundabout way to go.
Well,
We
as long as we don't speed to get there.
Yeah.
This is true.
Jim, in addition, the flower baskets really look fantastic.
Well, that's Ivy's
Oh, that's Ivy.
grant, yes.
What was that?
Installation by electric, the
Flower
baskets.
Just
Installation by
Grant-funded.
electric,
Yeah.
grant funded thanks to Ivy's application.
Nice addition.
And
my two favorite
planted by the Horticulture Advisory Committee, which is held managed
The
by.
benches, the flower pots,
Just
the
like this.
cocoa liners, the dirt, the
Team effort.
all
Let's
grants.
not forget the
Great idea.
renovated storefronts.
Yeah,
To have
facade
those closed in, it really makes a big difference downtown. And they look good.
And the signs that are out front, so folks know who's helping fund the project.
Yes.
So thank you, good job.
Like I
That
said,
was the mayor's idea to get those big signs. We had little posters in the windows, but that was mayor's
It
idea.
looks good for pictures,
For the
and we
signs.
want to keep applying for funding, so thank you.
It does, and if I may, I had an hour-long meeting today with our grants administrator with DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development, to close out the 3 prior facade grants that we've had over the last 5 years. And he just wanted to let us know that Berlin is a model for facade grant programs throughout the state.
What comes along with being a model?
So tell the park.
A soon-to-be visit by the secretary.
Well, when we reapply for additional facade grant money, they know that they can trust that we are going to utilize those funds to their full potential.
I love it.
I love grant funded, those are two of my favorites.
That's why I say it just for you, Jack.
Thank you, I love it.
And then-
That dinner time.
And then, yes, to close on time, I just want to also say, once again, we do have a new face in the mayor's office. Anybody that missed it, Sarah will be in there. And
Sarah,
then,
no H, please.
yes, no H's with the whole family, right? No H's with the whole family. So, all right, we'll move on to any comments from the press. Okay, Vice President Burrow, you're up.
Move to adjourn.
All in favor? Thank you. Thank you all.
That's early. Yeah.
Stayed up.
Interstate.
Well, I mean, it's good.